So today's debate is about whether or not the Oscars should exist at all. Oh my gosh. So I, Greg, am a huge fan of the Oscars, and I'll be debating that, yes, the Oscars are extremely important and should continue.
Okay. And I believe that the Oscars are worth crap all.
Whoa.
And that they should be completely and utterly canceled, and I have the stats and proof to explain
Canceled
why.
culture. Okay, here we go. Mitch, you're going to go first,
Okay.
just because you are. Okay?
Okay.
Don't question me.
Okay.
1, 2, you know what to do, and go.
Okay, so first of all, they're so boring, and people don't even watch them. The 2018 Oscars was the lowest rated Oscars of all time, and I think you may have mentioned this earlier, but they literally have no impact on box office success. There's been a handful of studies that have looked into it, and sometimes it seems they do, but overall, there's no consensus over whether they help films at all. There's extreme bias in them, so it's made up of people who are on average 49 years old, so that means average is a lot of old people, 93% white people, and 76% men who are like rating the films and giving their nominations and stuff. And when people of color do win, it's often based on racial stereotypes. And if you speak out, like sometimes people are like, oh, the Oscars is a great chance for actors to be activists and whatever. It's like, no, there's been actors who have been banned. So Richard Gere was banned for 20 years for calling out China's treatment of Tibet. So it's only on the Oscars terms when they think it's important. And also, let's not forget the hashtag #MeToo movement. It's like people part of that entire industry were okay dealing with that stuff as long as it didn't hurt their careers and they could suck up to the people that mattered most and they weren't willing to expose. So much for being activists. It's also rigged in favor of movies that are like pretty boring. Like I know La La Land didn't win eventually. Is that what it's called? LA Land?
LA Land. Okay.
But basically, it's like a weird voting system where, like, if a movie is controversial, it's more likely to do worse. And also, so many awards are given based on merit. So people aren't necessarily like I know you don't love Lord of the Rings, but like the third one won, and it definitely was not the best one. But they thought like, wow, this series was so impactful, we should give it. And a lot of actors and actresses win just because it's like they're due for an Oscar. Stupid. Fake. Also, some campaigns literally spent millions of dollars. So Shakespeare in Love spent $16 million to outbeat Saving Private Ryan by including paying people to say bad things about Saving Private Ryan.
Wow.
So I'm going to end there because I have more to say, but the Oscars should be canceled. Good night.
Okay, you brought up some really interesting, controversial subjects that make me think the Oscars are, really interesting.
What?
Like,
Okay.
I mean, that's all, like, I found that stuff all really interesting, and I'm, like, excited for this year.
Okay, that's not what that was supposed to do, but are you ready to bring on your pro-Oscar points?
Yes. Okay.
All right, you can start anytime.
Okay, so you're right. The Oscar viewership has decreased a lot, but I would argue that a lot of people are, like us, going on Reddit, finding the best live stream. That's not going into the Nielsen reports. That's how we watch any live event now as millennials. Also, it's aired in 225 countries across the world. So, yeah, the viewership might have gone down in America, but it's pretty insane to think about the actual impact that these award shows have on the world. People around the world tune in to watch Hollywood, and I think that that's really important because yes, you are in fact right that the voting panel is extremely old, extremely white, and extremely male, and extremely hetero. But in the last few years, they've panicked about that, the Academy that is, and they've added 1,600 of around 8,000 people into it who are younger, more diverse when it comes to race and sexuality because they want to change this. And I think that this is an important thing because, as I said, 225 countries are watching this and they're seeing movies like Moonlight, which, it's a queer movie about people of color and like it's just fast.
1 minute.
Wow. I always feel like I just, okay, yeah. It's like Roma, The Favorite. Like, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Call Me By Your Name. I'm just focusing on a lot of like queer movies, but the fact that the world tunes in to see these movies get highlighted, I think is extremely important. And it shows where we are as a society when it comes to movies. And I think that's my next point is that looking back on the Oscars, they become like a time capsule for culture. Like, I mean, obviously like Western culture, but it's still really interesting to at least look at them critically throughout the years. Like, what did people care about at the time? And
30 seconds.
Do think that it is a chance for people to get up in front of an audience of many people and say whatever they want. And you're right about Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins. They were talking about the 266 Haitian people who were in Guantanamo Bay for being HIV positive. They're saying, why are they being held? Being HIV positive is not a crime. And they got that out there to say to say something like that a long time ago when that was a big deal. Sure, the Oscars got mad, but they still got to say it. And that still happens.
Time.
Wow. Okay. Okay, here we go.
Okay, so let's open up the conversation. If you had other points you want to talk about, like, we can talk about them openly. So your main argument is just that the Oscars are a place for what? Like activism? Is that what you think?
Well, I think that they are. I think that
Because what? Lots of people are watching.
okay,
That's
people from around the world are watching this award show, okay? People get to go up and say whatever they want when they win their Oscar, and people get to listen to them. And I think it's so boring when people don't say, and when they're actually like thanking their friends and family. I'm always like,
yeah, I'm like, you need to cut this out.
yeah,
of
your
the
manager
Oscar.
knows
Like,
that you love
the
them.
Oscars, like, that's what makes the Oscars boring to me. It's like, I understand appreciating people, but like being on stage saying people's names doesn't really mean anything to viewers. I love when there's like an impassioned speech about things.
And that's what I think really is their benefit. When you think about a lot of these movies being forward thinking, being challenging, and then people going up and talking and like using it as a platform, I think celebrities, like whatever. We live in a society where they have so much power, they have such I'm going to say speakerphone. What's the word? When you go
megaphone? They have such speakerphone.
like at a rally when you
A
yell
megaphone.
into the megaphone. They have a megaphone, and it's a really cool place for them to actually say things. They've done it throughout the
But
years.
they have a megaphone their entire lives. Why do they only use it at the Oscars?
Because so many people are watching that. It's a live event that everyone is tuning in for. And when people take the opportunity to use it to say something important, I think that's why the Oscars are cool and should continue. And the fact that they're diversifying their academy, I think in the future we're going to see more films
Does that really
challenge
have to
people.
do with the Oscars? Like people taking advantage of the Oscars to tout like activist messages? Like the Oscars doesn't encourage that. They don't say use our platform to have a social message and do good in this world. Like they literally, in fact, probably don't want that because it's like out of their control. So you're saying you like the Oscars because the people who are giving speeches can hijack it for reasons that it's literally not designed for.
Yes.
Okay.
In short,
Just
yes.
wanted to make sure. Okay.
Yes, I do think that. And I do think that, like, the movies, especially that we've seen as of late, minus Vice, Green Book, Bohemian Rhapsody. Well, even Bohemian Rhapsody is, like, a queer, it's a poorly told queer story. Wow, I need to, like, figure out my opinion. But, I mean, a lot of these movies are challenging. They are representing what people are thinking about right now in the zeitgeist. I know it's problematic, but the world is problematic. Hollywood is problematic. And sometimes when we look at the Oscars is when we get to go, oh, wow, it's still all male directors. Like, this needs to change. It's highlighting the institution and the way that it works, and the Oscars is a time that we all focus in on it. Without the Oscars, there'd maybe be less challenging of this industry.
I don't know. I don't think that's fully untrue, but if you think about like this industry and the Oscars has existed for how long? Like
Since 19
like what
like
Oscars
a long
are it? Like
time. Sometimes when they flash
72,
back, I'm
75
like, wow.
years or something like that. Like it's been there in front of everyone's faces forever. The only reason it's being called out now is because like in our contemporary world, we're acknowledging these problems. And so the fact that the Oscars shows us these inequalities, it's like is a moot point because it always has, and no one said anything about it until the last like 5 years, maybe.
What do you mean?
maybe,
Wait,
okay.
clarify that.
Well, you're just saying like it's so great because we can see that it's all male directors, and now that's why we're calling this out. It's like, no, it's not. It's always been all male directors. Every year for the last 75 years, we've seen that there's been massive inequalities in the people who win these things and who get acknowledged for these things.
It hasn't
I'm
changed.
saying it hasn't changed. We're only, as a society, we've changed, and this is like an old beast of society that we're going, okay, that's really problematic. Like, the fact that it's being aired isn't what's making the change. It's what people are saying is the problem.
Okay,
It's
I see
the
what you're
problem,
saying.
not.
I see what you're saying.
I have a quote I wanted to bring up
Okay.
by a famous scientist, Richard Feynman, and he had a very strong feelings on like honors and epaulets, like awards that people.
It is kind of weird that we
watch.
watch these awards of all of them.
So I'm gonna read his quote because I like it.
Okay.
So he says, "I don't like."
I read that
honors."
as I don't like boners. But what does it say?
Honors.
Okay.
I don't like honors. I'm appreciated for the work that I did and for the people who appreciate it, and I notice that other physicists use my work. I don't need anything else. I don't think there's any sense to anything else. I don't see that it makes any point that someone in the Swedish Academy decides that this work is noble enough to receive a prize.
Wow, Drake Sweden.
I've already got the prize. The prize is the pleasure of finding the thing out, the kick in the discovery, the observation that other people use it. Those are the real things. The honors are unreal to me. I don't believe in honors. It bothers me. Honors is epaulets. Epaulets is uniforms. So I feel like that's a specific look into like the Nobel Prize
Okay,
space.
that's interesting.
But
yeah.
I think it speaks to the honor and reward of creating a film, of acting in a film, of producing music, like that should be your reward. And I understand, like, it feels great to be acknowledged for your work, and I don't know that I can fully feel this way that Richard Feynman does, but there is a point, especially with science. It's like you shouldn't only be looking for discoveries to be rewarded.
Clearly, Richard Feynman went to therapy. He was an evolved person, it seems like. That he was able to get
the
that.
craft is what brings you the reward. And if you're only doing it for the fame and the acknowledgement, isn't that what perpetuates a part of society that is also pretty toxic in the first place?
Yeah, but I would say that I do think it's interesting that he says that, especially about science. I think it would be so interesting if science had an award show where the public got to actually see these amazing discoveries, because science is something I think needs to be more in the public consciousness at all times. But unfortunately, or fortunately, we look at the arts and pop culture as something that more people are interested in. And yeah, you could say that for the actual person winning the award, like Brad Pitt or whatever, that maybe he shouldn't care about the award show. But I'm talking about the impact that it has on society. And
okay,
I think
I can agree with that.
If, for example, the Swedish Academy and like the Nobel Prize, if people
like
watch that in
phenomenon,
like the way that they watch the Oscars, I would be arguing that that's a great thing, because people are absorbing this really important information about science and like the evolution of human mind and like the world around us. But they aren't. Well, some people really care about it, but the Oscars, people care about it. And so what I like about it is that it takes in many ways, not when we think of Vice, Green Dog, I'm Homie, and Rhapsody, but it takes these movies that I think can be really important for people to see, that are about queer stories from different perspectives that are...
I guess that's my only argument that I'd say, is that it often doesn't. Like, yes, there are times in recent history, some movies that have won tell stories that are very different than the ones that would have won through the last however many decades. But I think it's more like, to me, that the Oscars follows the trend of what they need to be doing, and they lag behind, and they're not helping to define and expose people. They're saying, oh, geez, for whatever reason, this movie is a cultural phenomenon, and if we don't acknowledge it, we'll be seen as bad people.
Yeah, you're right. I think that they are definitely like not moving
It
as
would
fast
be
as
amazing
they
if
could.
they were like often when I watch the Oscar movies, like the ones that I think are the best and most impactful aren't the ones that are winning necessarily. Like, there's so many.
I hope Roma wins. I do think that,
and that's a great example. There's so many foreign films that I end up watching that I'm like,
it's bad.
And then there's just the one little category for foreign films, and it's like,
true.
But that's the rest of the world. And I get that it's an American.
But Hollywood they're trying to balance between like art house films and then the films that actually like the general
public. But it doesn't
public
feel
loves.
like a balance to me. It's all Hollywood.
I
films.
think they're doing an okay balance, and I think to say this. And how I'll end is I'm saying I think they shouldn't go away, because I think there's a lot of hope for them as they diversify the actual Academy to become an award show that in the future props up movies that are challenging, props up movies that can go down in history as really helping to like define and progress the arts and the way that people look at the world. And I hope that that is the case. And I can see a glimmer of that happening in the last few years of the Oscars. But I know that they can be problematic, but that's just what the stance that I'm taking.
Because also think about like what we haven't really touched on. I tried to, and one of my points was like the amount of money and campaigning that goes into winning is irrespective of how good the movie is.
It's like in September, they talked about
that Shakespeare in Love spent $16 million
That's Harvey Weinstein's baby,
to promote a film. Like, some movies don't even have that budget to make the film that could still be amazing movies.
I know. Okay,
so
that's a really good point. I do think that's
realize...
insane. And I've read a few really intense articles about the actual pathway to winning an Oscar, and it's wild. You just go to all these luncheons.
How much press
it's literally like a political campaign. The money, the power, the energy. I do not think that that's interesting. I do not think that that should be the case.
And it certainly doesn't lead to the best film winning.
No, it does
Almost,
not.
In fact, it does the opposite.
No, but I like
the films that have the bigger budgets are more likely to win.
I think that's a very good point, and I just think and hope that in the future that can be like curbed a little bit by the fact that the Academy, these 8,000 people, get to choose from hopefully some progressive movies and have that shine through. But you're right, there's a lot of money that's spent behind them, and it's actually embarrassing. But I do think the Oscars should continue, and I will be watching as someone who's loved them my whole life. But I can see why.
I will be watching. I mean, I'll probably hear about it. I don't mind. I don't like absolutely hate it, but I'm just like, all award shows to me are a little bit
It's funny.
silly.
Whenever I've watched the Oscars with you, you're always like, this is so stupid.
Yeah, and I'm like, you convince me every year earlier. You're like, no, it's so fun.
It's
We'll
gonna be
have,
fun.
like, a
Then
night.
you're
And
sitting through that
an hour
slog
in,
of it.
you're like,
Yeah.
wait, I'm literally just listening to people say names of people I don't know. I haven't seen most of these things.
But every once in a while, it's worth it.
Okay, but it's like now YouTube exists. It's like the next day I'm going to see all the best clips, but yet somehow I'm still tricked into watching the award show for 4 hours.
Well, okay. So, people out there, young audience who's probably like, what's the Oscars? Like, let us know if you'll be watching the Oscars. Let us know what you think about this year's Oscar
Yeah,
movies.
who do you think
and
is going to win?
do you think the Oscars should be
Let us
canceled?
know, though.
What? What'd you
Prop
say?
up our podcast by talking about the Oscars,
Yeah.
even though I hate them.
Well, no, let us know if you think they should continue, because I
Yeah,
think
true.
this could be an interesting debate. Even looking it up online, so many people talk about this because it is
Yeah.
such an interesting, like, potentially problematic award show.